Okay.
Right. Take it away. Tell us what happened. Hi, guys.
Let's see here. So it started, I was 40, just over 41 weeks. So the last couple weeks I'd been doing all the things to try to prepare for the birth. I was curb walking. I was, doing all the exercises that you're supposed to do, eating all the things, taking all the supplements. I was like, this baby's going to come on time. I was really hoping in time for Mother's Day, but he wasn't into that idea. So, our doctor wanted to schedule an induction, and this was like going to be on a Friday. And I was like, no, I didn't want that to happen. And so I tried this. I used castor oil and ingested castor oil with like a little brew. And I did it the night before I went into labor. So I did that. And then the next day I was dropping Cleo, our dog, off at the vet, and my sister was in town to help too. And all of a sudden I was like, I think my water broke, either that or I peed my pants. So, and I'd started having some contractions too. So my water broke and we called the hospital like you're supposed to do. And they were like, oh yeah, I guess you should come on in, which I was bummed because I had, like it was early contractions. It wasn't like I was really in active labor. So we came home, like packed last things, picked up John, who was trying to get like a last minute project done before the baby came.
Yep.
And contractions were kind of progressing, but still not rapidly. But we headed to the hospital, and then in the elevator on the way up, my water broke even more, like really, really broke again, like the gush that you see in a movie, that kind of thing. So I was like, whoa. And it honestly, it felt really, really strange. And then it kept like the water kept flowing, which I hadn't exactly understood
What felt strange? What felt strange? Just how the water broke, or
just how the water broke and like how wet it was,
Yeah,
and it was kind of constant, like it kept like drizzling out, and like I kind of knew that was an option, but I just wasn't prepared for how like strange and uncomfortable that was to me, which was almost like distracting me from the contractions, I guess. But we got in the hospital and I was progressing pretty slowly. So I just started doing like lunges down the hallway and trying to do different things like squatting, all the things to activate them even more. But it was getting to be night, and the nurses advised like, just go to sleep. Like you're going to want your rest, which totally in line with everything that we learned in the class. And so we're like, okay, went to bed, woke up maybe like 4 or 5 hours later. Contractions had really, really slowed. So they basically though said you have 24 hours from the time your water breaks to when they want you to give birth because of risk of infection. And so I felt like we were on a time crunch because I really didn't want to have to be induced. And so from that moment on, again, like lunging down the hallways and doing so many exercises to try to engage the contractions. And finally, like a couple hours before they were going to try to induce me, I really kicked into like active labor in high gear. And I ended up going from 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters in like a couple hours time. So it was like really slow and then really, really fast. And yeah, we brought with us to the hospital a bunch of tools to help with the labor, like we learned in the class. And then at the hospital, they had a bouncy ball and a peanut and stuff. And the ball was really helpful during labor.
what did you do on the ball?
I think I just rocked side to side a lot.
Yeah.
And I tried to bounce a little bit between contractions, but like rocking rocking was really helpful for me. And I didn't want, poor John had, oh buddy, poor John, I was like in labor, like as it was really active, I was getting snippety. And, I was either like, yes or no, like things that he would try to help and support with. So I had a lot of no's for him, like things that I thought might be good and helpful. I really didn't like in the middle of things. And you were very sweet and had a good attitude. So be prepared for, trying to find the right things in the middle of crazy contractions to help. Hi. Yeah, you gave me some
Also,
hard
if
time.
you can have a doula or if a nurse can help, because me doing the exact same thing wasn't working, but some random person doing it worked perfectly fine. So that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Except no one could substitute like me draped over your shoulders and swaying.
That's true.
That was like
The one
something that really, really helped. And then as it got closer, there was a bathtub. I gave birth at UCSD in the what's it called?
Birth center.
Thank you. In the birth center part. So there was a bathtub, and the bath helped so much with like, comfort in the midst of really intense contractions. And so I got in the tub and also used nitrous oxide, which I don't know if it actually helped, but it helped me find a rhythm in my breathing. Because that was like a huge thing to try to figure out. So I would like breathe it in and then I would take it off and like, like really work on those breaths, and like getting into a rhythm was the most helpful thing I could do as I was like thinking about how the body was actually working. That also helped me not get too caught up in the pain and intensity of the contractions. And it was hard because I dilated so quickly. I was ready to push faster than the midwife thought I would be ready. And so I was there in the tub, like screaming, like it feels like all my body wants to do is push. And it was incredible how like those instincts kick in, and like I had to push. Like there was nothing that really could stop me. I was trying to squeeze. It felt like I was trying to squeeze them in until the midwife came, and then she looked and it was ready to go. So they ended up draining the tub because they were worried about infection. But I stayed in the tub. I couldn't at that point physically like stand up and get out of the tub because it was time to go. And so once it was go time and pushing, I ended up only pushing for probably 10 minutes or so. And wow. I will say I went too fast and furiously. Like I remembered everything from the class until we got to the pushing part. I did not pay attention to my breathing. It all went out the window. I was just ready to have him, and it resulted in a really bad tear, actually. So highly recommend you like breathe, you go with the contraction, because that was the most complicated part of my birth story, was the afterwards, like, I made it through unmedicated, but then I ended up having to have a spinal, and they had to stitch me up, and
I didn't know that.
Crazy. So.
Wow. How long did that take?
That was only about 20 minutes in the OR. It wasn't.
Oh, you had to go into the OR?
They wanted to give her a spinal just because they needed. There was a lot of damage, and it's a lot easier if she's not moving and reacting to just a local anesthetic. And so it was easier to do that and get it done quickly than deal with her in the room.
Oh, sorry you had to go through that. That's awful.
Yeah. But he came out, he had the cord wrapped around his neck a bit, but they were able to take care of it and get him back to us pretty quickly.
Well, it sounds like when you were sleeping, your body was really actually progressing.
It must have been.
It was, yeah. It was totally
Yeah.
progressing. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice that you got a nap. Gosh. Did you ever consider, even though they told you to go in because your water broke, did you ever consider not going in?
Not really, because I don't know why, I kind of figured it would progress quickly. But I wish that we hadn't. I kind of wish we hadn't gone in right away and had just waited until more active.
Well, next time.
Yeah, next time we'll know.
So, so what was the hardest part? Well, obviously, for you, Anne, it was the after pushing the baby out, right? So for you, John, what was the hardest part for you?
Probably just not being able to do anything useful. Because we just kind of have to sit there and wait. There was at least enough people to help. When they had at UCSD, they had a doula available.
Oh, volunteer doula.
Yeah, and so that was helpful. Because everything I was doing wasn't working. So
Just having her say no to you was the hardest part.
I mean, in a sense, it's
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going through any pain, so you're just hanging out and trying to make it as easy as possible for her. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, you know, she's screaming and staring at you in the eyes. You're standing there, it gets intimidating, but yeah, it was probably the hardest part. Otherwise, the nurses and staff were really helpful after he was born and teaching us how to care for him and doing all that stuff. And so that part was a lot easier. They don't just kind of shut the door and disappear.
Right. Yes.
So,
So would you have either one of you have any specific words of wisdom for?
I mean, honestly, the biggest word of wisdom is not forget your training for the pushing part.
yeah, I'd say have help. Like we were allowed 2 people, and so Anne's sister was there, so having 2 people is helpful. So someone can go get things, or we kind of split duties and responsibilities, so it was a little less stressful in that sense. So that was helpful. It's, you know, you got to pick the right people to be in there because
You're limited to 2.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Does anybody have a question? Anybody at home? Anybody here? Yeah, we do. Wait a minute. Wait, there you go.
Congratulations. I had a question about, I heard you say that you took castor oil, and I just heard so many mixed things about how that just really gives you major diarrhea.
I'm surprised you took it at night.
Does that,
I
like, if you're comfortable, would you recommend that, or did you think it didn't really?
I did take it in the morning. I didn't take it at night. It was like the day. Was it the day before or the morning of?
It was the day before.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's all
the
kind of a
morning
blur,
of. You
but
did
it
twice. You did it that morning.
Yeah, and then when I was in the hospital after I slept,
Yeah, the
they
morning
had
she
me
was
do
born.
it.
Yeah.
You did it in the hospital?
Oh, they had you do it in the hospital?
Yeah.
Huh.
They offered it as an option. And
Yeah. And I was like, sure, anything to speed it up. I just felt, you know, like it was worth it. And it felt like it worked. I can't even remember. I did end up having diarrhea, and that wasn't, you know, pleasant. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
can you add it to something.
Yeah, and like the taste, I was able to mask it with like some juice and other things too.
Oh, also, she didn't do the full amount the first time at home.
I
You
didn't.
No, you did
We're gonna
like,
talk about that tonight.
she did like
Yeah.
half a dose and she's like, oh, this is not bad. And
Yeah.
then we found out she didn't do a full serving, which is probably disgusting.
I mean, I felt like it was worth trying so that I wouldn't have to be induced. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have done it. But
It's what happens is it causes diarrhea, it causes cramping, the intestines moving, and it's sort of an irritant to the uterus. So it can cause the uterus to get irritated and to start contracting. That's what that whole thing is about, so. Yeah, anybody at home, do you guys have any questions? Yeah. Come on, you must have a question. All those people don't have one question?
I remember wondering, like, what do contractions actually feel like?
Yeah.
Know if anybody else ever wondered that. And I've learned since that it actually really, and I already knew this because Liza told us, but it really does feel different for different people. For me, it was like, it was so strange. It would start like
Use the word.
in my
There
butthole.
you go.
Like that's how it felt like it was starting to then creep up into every part of my body. But that's like, I would like start to feel an intensity there. And then I'm like, oh no, it's coming again. And it would like then spread up into like my stomach and kind of my back. I wouldn't say I had back labor, but I definitely felt it.
I wonder if you felt it in your butthole because of all the castor oil.
Probably. Probably. That was like the most activated area.
That's too funny. Oh my gosh.
I know. Sorry, TMI, but at this
No, it's not TMI. That's why you're here. To tell the truth. Looks like Roya.
I had a question. So you said you had a bunch of different tools that you took with you. Was there anything that you were like, oh, I'm so glad we brought this with us?
That's a good. I'm trying to think.
A little
The
ball
10
massager.
oh, the
tens thing.
the
yeah.
ball massager that like rolls. Yeah, that was nice.
Yep.
And then the tens machine that we got.
Is that just like a massage gun that you're talking about?
No,
No, I got one. I'll show it to you. Hang on.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
what I'm talking about.
It's got little sticky pads and it can like
the-
shock the muscles in different settings and types.
For the tens machine.
For the
Okay.
10 15, but I think,
But
wait a minute, I'm not even in front of the camera. Hang on a second, we were in the spotlight for just a second. Oh, now I gotta turn the camera to me. Where am I? Dun, dun, dun. There I am. This thing,
Yep, that thing.
yeah.
It just makes it easy to massage.
Massage ball.
You probably, have you used this here, Maria?
No.
You haven't? Okay, well, anyway, I have a couple of them.
Okay.
That and then the bouncy ball, but that was there.
Yeah, I was glad they had a bouncy ball.
Yeah,
Second follow-up question. We're also giving birth at UCSD. Seems like you guys had a good experience, which is great to hear. Is there anything else that we should know or would be helpful or something you didn't expect or?
Are you in the birth center?
Yeah.
Okay. The only things that are like worth knowing, the staff was phenomenal. Everything was great. It is a thing where if they're overcrowded though, like there's 2 rooms that are better than another one, right?
Yeah. There's 2 rooms that have the kind of like queen hospital gurney bed, and then one's just a single use.
So try like if they put you into this small like regular gurney bed, ask if there's opportunity to move to the room with the queen one. So then like if when you lay down, it's way more comfortable and you both can even like sit on the bed then.
Is that
but-
where you were?
We started in the room with the single, and then once somebody else left, we were able to switch rooms, which was really nice and was worth switching when we had the chance.
And then
That's
they-
good to know.
Yeah, depending on when you give birth, though, you potentially spend the night, and if it's really busy, they put you in the postpartum wing, which is still really big, nice rooms. The husband's stuck sleeping on a kind of couch sofa thing, but it's still pretty nice.
So it sounds like the room with the tub and the bed, that's the birthing room, and then you move to a different room
Yeah,
after.
just to make room so people can have that for active labor.
Unless
You're in,
you have
you're
many
in,
people.
you're in all the hospitals, you're in a labor and delivery room. And for about 1 to 2 hours after you've given birth, and then you're moved to a postpartum room. That's just standard procedure.
Yeah. I feel like they didn't tell us that before at UCSD though.
They
Yeah.
might have- I mean, it's included in, like, when I give tours at Scripps. That's what we say. It might have just gone right past you, didn't mean a thing, you know? But, yeah. So. Anybody else have a question?
Oh,
How about
yeah,
breastfeeding?
I had
Oh, yeah.
a question.
Sorry.
Did you eat anything during labor?
Did he eat anything?
Oh.
She eat anything?
I don't think so.
When we
snacks.
got to the hospital, we did have In-N-Out burger.
Oh, that's so funny.
that
That's been her craving recently. That's so funny you just said that. We've been eating like In-N-Out once a week. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and at first I was like, no, I don't want anything. And then I'm like, this could be like my last meal that I'm gonna have. So I really
Who does it?
think that was really all I ate. I tried to make sure to drink water, and maybe Mary shoved something in my
I think
mouth
you had some
a few
snacks or
times. I think I
something.
had little snacks, but I honestly don't even remember.
Do you remember feeling like hungry for them, or like was it easy to eat when people were offering you food, or did you? And then I know it's hard to tell, but do you think that helped at all in terms of being able to get through the difficulty of labor?
Probably. And I think having like a big last meal kind of helped.
Yeah, yeah.
But for some reason, my mind like can't even remember
Okay.
snacking through labor.
Well, I
That
mean, if
makes
you're gonna have a
sense. No
natural
worries.
birth, you need to eat and drink throughout your labor. That's why
I did.
the 5 things: eat, drink,
Yeah.
walk, bath or shower, rest.
And I walked so much.
You definitely drank a lot of water.
And I drank a ton of water. And I'm sure I ate because that's what we were supposed to do. I just can't recall what I ate or how I felt about it.
In-N-Out burger can tide you over for a while.
Yeah.
A double. That's funny. Wow. Any more questions? Oh, breastfeeding. How did you have any issues breastfeeding, or did that go well? Or?
It went pretty well. He had a tongue tie, which they noted in the hospital, and then our pediatrician said something. So we got that clipped, and he's like great now, and it's been surprisingly easy. I have a lot of friends who had a hard time, so I wasn't really, I went into it with low expectations, but we're in a good groove.
It's good that you got the tongue tie procedure done, because some people wait, they're so afraid to do it. And I always tell people, it's harder on you than it is on your baby, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It's much harder on you. And they heal so quickly, and then the breastfeeding experience can be like night and day once the procedure's done. It's extraordinary how helpful it is. Yeah. So
I have a question. Did she go into labor or did she have to be induced? Because I wasn't here for the first part.
well, you're late. So we've already been there.
Okay.
She went into labor on her,
Okay.
but I'm gonna send you the recording. so
Okay,
you
good.
can watch
Okay.
it. I'm just,
I was just wondering for tricks that she did to
well, you
make
did say
labor
in the
start,
beginning, you
because
said
I'm
you
doing
did,
everything.
you did all this stuff, so tell us some.
Oh.
You said, what did you eat, the dates?
Oh, I ate
I ate the dates, Yeah, I worked up to 6 dates a day. I was doing the, what's it called?
The homeopathic remedy that I told you
I
about,
was doing a homeopathic and I was doing,
the happy birthday.
yes. And then the oil, the primrose. I was thinking something rose, the primrose oil,
Evening primrose one.
evening primrose, that's it. And I was doing all the exercises.
The miles circuit.
Yeah, like religiously, and the miles circuit too. Yeah. So I got to know a neighbor because they saw me curb walking like all the time.
It's funny.
And I think those were the big things, and like stretches.
Yeah. Oh, I
We're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about castor oil tonight.
Nice.
I'll be thinking of you when we talk about it.
Really cool.
And your butthole.
Yeah. Now you all know.
They just came in late, so I don't think they know what I'm talking about. No, yeah, went, whoop, right over her head. She's like, oh, Liza. Wow. All right, you guys, you did a great job. Looks like somebody's asleep now.
Yeah,
You just wanted to be held.
he did.
Yeah, he's.
He does a lot of half naps in his crib and then wakes up and wants to be held for the rest of the nap.
Oh, yes, I had one of those.
Yeah,
He doesn't need to be held anymore. He's 25.
but that's good. That's encouraging.
Yeah, you have to look for it. And he's very independent.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, so, all right, well, thanks you guys so much. That was such a treat.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Love
Bye.
it. All right, bye, you guys.